Hello, and welcome to our webinar talking about CLIL and STEAM in your classroom. My name is Natalia Liashko, and this webinar is recorded on behalf of ENBI agency. So welcome and thank you very much for joining our community. Today we'll be talking about these two approaches, STEAM and CLIL, because these are the latest trends in the ELT community. So, before we join and dive into these topics, for those of you who see me for the very first time, just a little bit of information of me. So, my name's Natalia Liashko, and I've got a lot of qualifications like CELTA, Delta Module 1 and 2, TKT Modules 1, 2, and 3, IH-CYLT course, which we kindly call INSULT in Ukraine. And also, I'm a CELTA tutor and IH-CYLT course tutor. I'm a neurolanguage coach, international speaking examiner, and basically I do have lots and lots of qualifications. But that's not because I am a very ambitious person and I want to get more and more qualifications and diplomas in my hands. But that's because of you, dear teachers and dear colleagues. Since you've been requesting lots of ideas, like Natalia, could you please tell us about this? And we would like to hear your opinion on that. And if we don't know that, we first of all need to learn it ourselves as tutors and then share the information with other colleagues. So that's why requiring this request, it's like following this request, we've been learning and learning and learning. And I think I can add here that I became a learnaholic. Okay, so as you see, I'm a very creative personality, and actually, if we speak about this particular topic, STEAM and CLIL, I want to mention that it seems to me that we've been cleaning in the classroom for quite a long time, and we didn't probably know that it's called cleaning. I do remember my very first lessons back in 2015, 13, and I was doing these cooking projects with the kids, following them. The bus on media about MasterChef Kids. And that was CLIL, as we found out later. But lots of people, lots of ELT experts around the world think that STEAM and CLIL is the same. They don't differentiate these two approaches. They work under one umbrella. So I want you probably to pause this video and think for about a moment and just reflect. What do you think? Even if you don't know what STEAM is fully, even if you don't understand what CLIL means fully, just what your gut tells you. What do you feel? Is it the same or different? You might tell me, Natalia, definitely different because I see different letters in these abbreviations. But as I mentioned, lots and lots of people think that it's the same and this works under one big umbrella. It's like one big approach. So during this webinar, we're going to look at these two approaches. And at the end, I'm going to ask you this question again. And I want you to be confident with your answer and be 100% sure that it's the same or probably different. We'll see. So let's start with a demo lesson. I'm going to ask you a question. Just think, what artists do you know all around the world? Maybe international artists, well-known ones, maybe Ukrainian ones. Just think about the names. What comes to your mind? Maybe it's Primachenko, maybe it's Monet, maybe any other artists. Or maybe you're not into artists at all, but you might have heard some names, while talking to your friends, to your colleagues. Or maybe you have seen some in art galleries somewhere around Ukraine or around the world. Or maybe you have seen them in the books. So I'm sure you've got some names in your head, But today we'll today we'll talk about my favorite artist, and that's Van Gogh. It's all about Vincent. And I personally enjoy Van Gogh's pictures, probably because of his passion to blue and yellow color, and it reminds me Ukrainian colors. And I think that Van Gogh was that smart back in times to send us the message, to Ukrainians in the future that don't worry, guys. There is going to be light after. There is going to be rain. There is going to be sun after the rain, and there is going to be light that is going to guide you during the dark periods. And if you just visualize some Van Gogh's pictures in your head, you might have some sunflowers. You might have other ones, or you might have Starry Night in your head as well. Now, what do we know about Van Gogh? That he was Dutch and he painted portraits and landscapes, and he used watercolors as well as oil paints. And he's famous for using bright colors and bold brushstrokes in his work. And if we think about these words, brushstrokes, and if I ask you to have your hand in front of you and draw a line. It's not a brush stroke, it's a line. Brush stroke are smaller and shorter things like shoo, 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 shoo. You might ask your students at this moment, what do they call them in Ukrainian? And by the way, it's okay at any point if you see error 404 misunderstanding in their eyes, switch into Ukrainian and continue the talk in Ukrainian. At some point, whether you are sure that they know the language, switch into English back and continue talking in English. So we kind of tell a little bit of Van Gogh to the students so they understand who he is. Maybe some of them has visited Amsterdam and has visited the museum. I don't know, just ask them. And if they know nothing, just introduce it to them. And as you see, if we talk about the styles, so he painted in a style called post-impressionism. Okay, your students might not know it, but again, they're having the art lesson and they might use it there. You might be ready, if you're sure that your students don't know this, you might be ready with some pictures of post-impressionism and show these pictures to them. So then we introduce the pictures, and as I told you, you might have in your head that the most popular ones like sunflowers. It's again one of the symbol of Ukraine as well. And my favorite is Starry Night. Again, because of the message that I told you, there is always light to guide you. And because of the colors like blue and yellow, lots of people these days see this thing at the front as the fire, or probably those sparks in the sky as explosions. So basically, you may start discussing this picture together with the students as like how they feel, what they feel, yeah, what they notice in the picture. But it's a very difficult question if we have a look at it. It's kind of suitable for adults, for teenagers, but not for kids. Okay, even if they are at the age of 9. It's a very deep question and we need to scaffold it. So I would start with something basic. What can you see on the pictures? And they just name, I see houses, I see sky, I see moon. They might just say words. And again, if I know my students well, I will kind of push them a little bit to say sentences I can see. At least we have some language there. And they might just name the colors. And again, if they don't have enough vocabulary, you may just ask them to say this in Ukrainian or in their native language. And then you may translate it into English and tell them, yes, that's the house, that's the church or chapel, that these are mountains, and so on and so forth. Now, we kind of look at the picture at the surface stage, and now we're going deeper into the picture, like paying attention to the details, asking the next question. What do you think is going on? And your students might tell you that people are sleeping, people are eating, maybe they are having dinner. Remember that when we describe a picture, when we describe an action, we mostly use present continuous. And this is logical because this is like a snapshot. This is the picture and the photo was taken in order to capture the moment. So that's why it's logical to use present continuous to describe the process there. They might tell you something different. I don't know. They're getting ready to wake up, to have their morning coffee, to go to school. It really depends at the period of the year when you ask it, depending on the lesson in a row, depending on their mood. They might come up with different answers. And you as the teacher, you just accept them all because you're just interested. It's art. We're just having our own opinions. There are no wrong or right answers. This is just how I feel now. And it's absolutely okay. Now let's move on. The next question. What does it make you wonder? Yeah, and wonder, this is the thinking process. Remember, I told you we might not start with this question. We might scaffold it a little bit. Have an easy one at the surface. What can you see? Kind of going deeper into the picture, paying attention to such some details. What do you think is going on? And finally, we're ready for the final stage, like critical thinking. What does it make you wonder? And this approach, see, think, wonder, yeah, it's kind of scaffold this thinking process. So your students might struggle with this, and at this stage, they might require support from you. You might give them an example. I was wondering why so many curves and twirls in the sky. Why the stars are so big? Usually they are very, very small, okay? And it makes me wonder, what is this thing at the front? Yeah, this green, brown, black. What's that? And it might make me wonder why Van Gogh used blue color for the sky, but not black if it's a starry night. Usually we see it very dark and we see it as black colors, but not blue. So students might then continue with their own questions and you accept them, you help them. You might have a very meaningful discussion, but remember, if you have this lesson with kids, they might come up with something very simple and just one word answer might help them. But if you're having this lesson with senior students, like teenagers, you might have a very meaningful discussion using lots and lots of language. Now, the next step would be like this particular lesson was part of the unit talking about weather. So I decided to connect it with the weather topic, asking again, scaffolding the final question, starting with something very simple. Is the weather cloudy? Your students look at the picture and say, like, yes, teacher, prove it. Why do you think it's cloudy? Because I see those spots. Okay, got it. Now, other students might say, like, no, teacher, the weather it's not cloudy. Prove it. Justify your answer. It's one of the most important things. You just remember there are no right or wrong answers. I want to hear your justification. Why do you think so? So they tell you, because I see stars, because I see mountains, there are no clouds. I can see the moon clearly, so it's a clear sky. And again, at any stage, at any question, if your students cannot answer in English, please accept the answers in Ukrainian. I'm going to refer to it a little bit later. The next question is the weather windy? Again, your students just take sides, yes or no, supporting the answer with justification. You just tell them, prove it. Prove it to me that it's yes or no. And finally, is the weather foggy? Usually at this point, everyone is united. They say, no, teacher, because we can see everything. So there is no fog. Very good. So now the thinking question. Which season do you think it is? Okay, again, these questions 1, 2, 3, they kind of scaffold the final one, and they help you to pay attention to the details of the picture and come up with the final conclusion. I think it's summer, maybe spring, because I see lots of green colors, yellow colors. We definitely need this preparation with questions 1, 3, because we want them to justify, why do you think it's spring? Because I see green colors. Why do you think it's not winter? Because there are no white colors. Okay, so on and so it might be winter, but +10. We do have winters like that. So basically, that's it, the discussion. And then if your students are ready, you can have a small talk about the message that Van Gogh had. Talking about his message behind this picture. And according to the book that I used, the message of Van Gogh's picture Starry Night was that there is always light to guide you during dark nights. So it's fine. That's why probably it became, my favorite kind of like, hold on, Natalia, everything is going to be fine. Just relax and patiently wait. Like that. Anyway, so we kind of pay attention, we describe the picture, we know who Van Gogh is briefly, we don't need lots and lots of information. What we want to know and what we want our students know is just to have their own opinion, whether they like it or not, but they need to be ready to justify their answer, to support their answer. And these questions, they help. Now we finally go to the technique that Van Gogh used. So we pay attention to the brush strokes. We show the students, look, these things, these small, very small lines are called, they're not lines, but very small things. They're called brush strokes. And you might ask your students, if you're working offline, come up to the board, pay attention to details, and point to the parts where the brush strokes are on the picture. Or if you're working online, you might ask your students to use zoom annotation, for example, and point again. Oh, I see brush strokes here. I see brush strokes here. I see brush strokes here. And brush strokes help to have this 3D effect. Yeah, it's not plain. It's not flat. I kind of look at it and it becomes live. So later on, what is going to happen next? Very logical. We ask our students to recreate the Starry Night. So they basically take a piece of paper and start drawing the picture. You just show it on the board or online, and they start drawing. Please be specific with the time. They will never stop drawing. Giving them something like 4 or 5 minutes, depending on the materials that you use. If these are pencils or markers, it might be faster. If this is watercolors or oil pens, might be longer. So basically, depending on the time of the lesson that you have. But just remember that drawing is not a main goal. Our main goal is language, since we're having an English lesson, right? So they might come up with something very basic, something like this. Yeah? This is Maria, 11 years old. And what is going to happen next? Basically, the students are going to describe their picture using present continuous, yeah? And that preparation that we had before this part actually helped them to put these words into practice to describe their pictures. They might use the words like I used brush strokes, like blue brush strokes, thick brush strokes, and other things to describe the pictures. Something like this, okay? Bright dark colors in the landscape, at the front, at the background, top, bottom. You might involve other students to describe the picture. So basically, I show my picture, and other people describe my picture, saying just one sentence, like a snowball activity. And then other students stand up, show a picture, or if you're working online, show it to the camera, and others use the sentences to describe the picture. And that's it. That's the end of the lesson, basically. If it's going to be like 45, 60 minutes, that's enough. And my question is, like, just again, you may pause the video for a moment and just think, is it a CLIL lesson or a STEAM lesson? Lots of people here, lots of teachers, they start debating. I think it's CLIL. I think it's STEAM, because we kind of talked about the art. But yeah, we're going to talk about these two approaches in details. But I might already tell you that art is included to both of these approaches. So that's why it might be either that or those. So basically, if your answer is CLIL, you're absolutely right. If your answer is STEAM, we'll discuss it, how to make this lesson a STEAM one. But at this particular moment, it's a CLIL lesson. Why? Let's have a look at it in more detail.
Content and language integrated learning is an approach for learning content through an additional language, thus teaching both the subject and the language.
So as you see, according to David Marsh, CLIL is content and language together. So we had language and we had content, we had art. So that's definitely integration of two subjects. And talking about simultaneous learning, yes, we did it. So basically, very logical answer that that particular lesson was a CLIL lesson. Now, starting from this point, I want to pay your attention that there are two types of CLIL in the world, in the ELT world, hard CLILers and soft CLILers. So we as English teachers, we don't work hard. We work smart. That's why we are soft CLILers. We don't work hard. Who works hard? Subject teachers. So hard CLIL is for subject teachers. This is for the people who teach math, who teach science, who teach physics, who teach history. And if they decide to do it in English, this becomes a CLIL lesson, hard CLIL lesson. We as English teachers, for us, language is more important than the subject. So that's why we refer to soft CLIL. And starting from this point, whenever I say CLIL, I mean soft CLIL. Please don't confuse these two things. So as you see, it was coined in 1994. David Marsh is the father, together with two more colleagues, is the father of CLIL approach. And he used to work at Finland. And maybe that's why our Ministry of Education finds the Finnish system of education fancy. Because of this, so it was innovative at that time, and having these dual focused aims is you kind of teach your students real life things, yeah, like things connected to something that is happening outside the classroom together with the language might be very effective for the learning. So basically CLIL is simultaneous learning of both, okay? But remember, hard CLILs, there is more focus on the subject. For soft CLILs, there is more focus on language. And lots of teachers at this point, like Natalia, I know nothing about physics. I don't remember anything from geography. So I'm kind of not into CLIL at this point. Relax. Remember that we are soft CLILers. We don't dive really, really deep into the topic. We just use the language. We might help them understand basic things. Just imagine the situation that your students are traveling abroad, they are communicating with people from other countries, or they might study later on abroad. So they might meet these words. And once we think about English language as a life skill, once we use it as meaning of communication, we talk about different things. We don't talk only about situations in the book. The real life, it's not the book, it's something different. And we talk about the sky, the nature, we go to the galleries, and students might need this basic information. Again, don't go deep into details, okay? So it's fine. Now, if we look at STEAM, STEAM refers to science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. It used to be STEM, but later on, experts added arts, because without arts, it might not be fully. In some years, we might come up with something more creative, like STEAM, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, but they might add more details. And if we have a look at this Wikipedia definition what the STEAM is, I'm going to give you some time to read and listen.
These programs aim to teach students innovation, to think critically, and use engineering or technology in imaginative designs or creative approaches to real-world problems, while building on students' mathematics and science base.
As you see, this this Wikipedia definition doesn't actually help me understand fully what STEAM is. There are some words like real-world problems, like skills, critical thinking, creativity. Yes, yes, yes. Science, I understand, but I don't actually see the difference between this and CLIL. Because remember that CLIL is content language. So if I look at the abbreviation of STEAM and I see science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, this is content. And that's why lots and lots of people call it the same content-based approach. Content-based approach. This is like together under this big umbrella. Now, if we go deeper, okay, Georgette Yackman from the States is the person who coined in 2006 this term, STEAM education. It started with STEM, by the way. Yes, STEM education, now it becomes STEAM. And basically, this is the main approach of the 21st century because it's focused on 4 C's: collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and creativity. And most importantly, it incorporates inquiry-based learning. So basically, we as teachers, we need to raise students' curiosity and make them, hook them, let's say like this, hook them and make them wonder, why do you think this happened? Why the sky is blue? Why the grass is green? Why do we have seasons? Why Van Gogh used brushstrokes? Why didn't he use just lines? Okay, we just raise students' curiosity and we push them to ask questions. Why? We make them wonder. But remember that magic doesn't happen overnight. We need to help our students to start thinking critically, and we need to scaffold this wondering process. But once they're hooked, this becomes interesting. And students love learning because they are curious. They want to find out the answer. So that's why STEAM is kind of fancy as an approach for the lessons, because the lessons are not boring any longer and students are highly involved. And what is more important, they experiment in the lesson, because STEAM encourages experiential learning. And if there is no experiment, it's not a STEAM lesson. It's a CLIL lesson. Surprise, surprise. That's the only difference between these two. CLIL, we might talk about notions, yeah. We might apply not might, but we have to apply the things we've learned, but we apply it in a practical way, but we don't experiment with this. And here you might have a question in your head. Natalia, you told us that the Van Gogh's lesson, the demo lesson that you showed, is a CLIL lesson, but we experimented. We recreated the Starry Night. Hold on your horses. You recreated, this is copy pasting. You used classical, traditional way of drawing. You just simply copied, pasted, recreated Starry Night. Where is the experiment? This is just drawing. Yes, you might say we tried drawing, but this is just doing the same that is given in a traditional way. If we change the scenario, here we go. We kind of have an experiment. So STEAM starts with the hypothesis. Can I do this? If I use pencil, just one color, not different colors, we will be able to make the brush strokes. What if I use the pen, not the oil paints? Here we go. This becomes an experiment, and this becomes a STEAM lesson. The lesson turns into a STEAMy one. Now, have a look at these two things, learner-centered lesson and it's student-led, where teachers-led is also possible. But what's the difference then? Let me explain. So I do hope that you will agree with me here that all the lessons in the 21st century should be learner-centered. The learner is in the focus. It doesn't mean that the students are little bosses in the class and they do whatever they want. It's not. But we as teachers take care of our students and we focus on their needs. It's all about needs-based learning. I do know, for example, that my students love bananas. It means that once we talk about fruit, we're not going to discuss lemons. We'll talk about bananas because they simply hate lemons. They only love bananas. The other group of students might hate bananas. I belong to that group. I don't like bananas, to be honest. Let me put it like this. I don't like them in the dishes, like desserts. But as a standalone fruit, I like eating bananas. But once you have it, banana ice cream or banana pie, nope, I don't like that. So if I know that about my students, I would change it into apple, tangerine, orange, mango, raspberry, strawberry, whatever is there. But I would change this this little thing to cater for my students. So that's what means learner-centered. Now, what's the difference between student-led and teachers-led? Imagine the situation that after this webinar, you decide to have the same lesson with your students on Van Gogh in your classroom. So you basically take my lesson as it is, take the same steps and go into the classroom. And you just simply follow the steps. This is teachers-led because you tell the students what to do next. But if you come into the lesson with scenario A, B, C, or many other letters of the English alphabet, this becomes a student-led. It looks like that. Basically, you want to talk about different fruit and how they grow, but you know nothing about the preferences of your students. So you come into the lesson with plan A, we're going to talk about apples. where they grow, where do we get them, blah, blah, blah. Plan B, if they don't like apples, we're going to talk about mangoes or something like that. So basically, the lesson starts with the question, which fruit do you like, guys? And they might tell you, kiwi, teacher, or dragon fruit. Good luck. So this means that you are ready to be flexible, to improvise, and continue the lesson following this particular plan. It's not scary, it's safety zone, because you as the teacher in these lessons, you play a guiding role. You need to be ready to guide them through this question. But what do we know about this fruit? And even if you don't know, say, how can we find out? And your students might tell you, let's ask ChatGPT. Let's do that. Who's got the phone? Let's open the phone and ask ChatGPT. What does it tell us? If it's true and not true, how can we check the information? And then you scaffold and guide this process. You basically support your students. You teach them how to find the information. And at the end of the lesson, you might come up with an experiment, but the experiment might be ready for apples, and then you say at home you repeat it with your favorite fruit, and the students experiment with the same fruit. This is just an example, pure improvisation from me at this time. But as I mentioned again, learner-centered always, but how it's led, there might be two different scenarios. Students-led, you kind of follow your students, what they answer, or teachers-led. You're ready with the teacher's plan, lesson plan, and you just follow it. Now, what are keywords on this slide? So basically, you may pause the video and have a look, read it, and think, what are the key words at this slide? Now, if you answered these ones, well done. So basically, STEAM in the classroom, it's all about learners' responsibility, learners' autonomy, learners' agency, and real life situations. So it's all about life. And this is what the Ministry of Education wants us to focus on. Yeah, we want to teach our students real life, because they might use the language outside the classroom, not only inside the classroom, here during the lesson. We are preparing them for future life. That's why they need to be able to talk about this life. Lots and lots of people are turning into bilingual education, though this means that students might start talking English to their own kids in in 15, 20, 30 years, okay, in the future. So this means they're going to express their own ideas about these things. And learners' autonomy and learners are responsible for their own progress means that once you ask them this question about students-led lesson, yeah? Once you ask them the question, they give you the answer, and you tell them, people, it's not me who said that. It's you. I asked you, and you told me kiwi. You could have said bananas, but you decided to say kiwi. So it's your responsibility. And this, I love it, especially talking to kids. We kind of teach them to be responsible for their own choices. And otherwise, if we don't use it, once they become young adults, 18 years old, they may not be ready to make their own decisions. So it's fine. Take the responsibility, risk, and see how it goes, yeah? So these are the examples of STEAM activities in the classroom, and you might have a look here and see like, I've been doing this. Designing something and describing it. This is talking about projects. Doing research with technological devices. Oh, come on, we've been doing this. Counting, learning about numbers. For sure, 100%. Maybe not that much science experiments, yeah? Because I'm like, personally, I'm not into science. Like, you might think this way. But as you see, it's not that complicated. Now, we'll skip this. Sorry, it's wrong slide. Now, why this is important? Let me pay attention to some of the basic concepts of the 21st century classroom. So remember this guy? Confucius, back in times, thought that's not, again, later on there was Benjamin Franklin saying this. So if you tell me, I forget, in the 21st century, we are all visual learners. We have TikTok, Instagram, and other things, YouTube. Everyone is going noses down. I've met traffic lights installed in the pavement. So because lots of students, lots of people, they just walk looking into their phones. They don't look that way. So the traffic light is installed in the road. So you go and like, it's a red light. I cannot cross the road. Can you imagine that? So we are all visuals, and once you show it to me, once you show me the picture, once you send me the screenshot, once I see the text, I might remember it. But once I become involved, once I start doing it myself, here we go, I might understand. So basically, students are highly involved in CLIL lesson and STEAM lessons while doing these experiments, while applying these things. So that's why they might find it very interesting and engaging, and they remember it. So learning becomes memorable and fun. Now, if we talk about the lesson itself, we as teachers take the guiding role. We are their GPS navigators. We help them with those questions to find the answer, to prove the hypothesis, or tell that it's not working. And if we want to make it work, we need to make some changes. We need to adapt the process. So that's why we play the guiding role. We just tell them, turn left, turn right, make a U-turn. And next one is that we as English teachers, we don't tell them the ready-made answers. So if you think about fishing, you might have the fancy fishing rod in your head, but your students might catch a fish just using the rope and the stick. Or maybe they are going to fish and catch a fish just using their hands. It's still possible. So basically, we need to teach them how to study, how to use the ChatGPT, how to check the information, how to check if the words suits the sentence and the context, and so on and so forth. So we need to help them with the skills. It's the most important thing of the 21st century. We are no longer the source of knowledge. ChatGPT works faster than we do, maybe knows more than we do, but what we can do is help students to actually check if this ChatGPT is right or wrong and come up with more creative activities. And we might give our students emotional side of the lesson. So as you see, inquiry-based learning is really, really important because students are motivated to study. And finally, STEAM lessons are very good in terms of students' involvement. They do all the things. You just ask students the proper questions so they become interested and involved. And you, during the lesson, you simply drink coffee. Of course, this is a metaphor. And drinking coffee during the lesson means that you simply shut up and give the floor to your students. You ask questions instead of telling them what to do. Yeah? What do you think? Have a look at the picture, draw it, use it, and then you have a result. So teacher tea time is a teacher talking time. We need to switch it. We need to make our students be the hard workers of the lesson. We don't work hard. We work smart, remember? So that's why we drink coffee during the lesson. Now, sorry, just wanted to show you the engagement of the students. You see, They're really, really happy to have this experiment and to see that it works. And we've been doing the experiment talking about genes, and we were talking, are we the same or different? And people were saying, like students were saying, we are all different. I said, like, look, I've got one hat and you've got one hat. I've got two hands and you've got two hands. The same about the legs and the body. So we are the same. We are people. We are human beings. And they were like, yes, teacher, but my hair is not the same color as your hair. My hair is straight, but your hair is curly. I've got blue eyes, and you've got blue eyes too. Oops, here is the same thing. So we were talking, why are we having these things? And we were talking about genes. So what makes us different? The material is the same, but the combination is different. So our personal code, yeah, this strich code, yeah, the genes code becomes different because of the combination. And we had this experiment and it proved that this is what makes us different. So I've got a hypothesis now that every CLIL lesson can be steamed up. So once I take the CLIL lesson and add experiment there, it becomes a STEAM lesson. Agree or disagree? Just have it in your mind. What do you think? Yes or no? Let's have a look. So if I take that lesson, CLIL lesson, but I want to make it a STEAM one, what can I do? Which experiment I can add? Imagine that we change the scenario, the original picture. Imagine that it's raining or it's snowing. There are lots of gray clouds in the sky. It's foggy and we cannot see the houses. Now recreate the starry night and make brush strokes for the rain. So one more time, it's raining, foggy, lots of gray clouds. We cannot see the houses. And students recreate the starry night and they use brush strokes only for the rain. And this is the example. Just have a look. This looks like the starry night because I have the symbol, yeah? But I see the mountains, but it's a little bit different. I cannot see the houses. I see the rain, clouds, and the brush strokes. So Svetlana did a really good job. Once she was drawing, I cannot assess this picture and say, wow, 12 points, Svetlana. Surely no. But what I can do is like, Svetlana, once I see these things, I can see, where are the brush strokes? Where are the brush strokes? And she tells me, here or here. And I was like, look, brush stroke. It's not a line. And she was like, is it like this, teacher? It's like, yes, these are the brush strokes. And then she started drawing this way, you see? So here we go. Now we know, we understand that these are the brush strokes. And finally, what I can assess after this activity is how students describe the picture. And they're going to tell how their picture is different to the original picture. This also contributes to famous exams, right? Where students compare two pictures. In this picture, like in the original picture, there are lots of stars in the sky. In my picture, there are lots of gray clouds in the sky. In the original picture, it is not foggy, but in my picture, it's foggy. And here we go, we continue. It's raining and blah, blah, blah. And this we can assess. And here we can grade this activity because we assess language, right? Now, if I change the material, I want to make it more steamy. If I use Lego blocks and it's not flat, the picture is 3D as you see, is it CLIL or STEAM? What do you think? Definitely, it's a STEAM activity because we start experimenting. It's the same picture. We don't change the scenario. It's still Starry Night, original Starry Night, but we made it in a different way. we tried to show the brushstrokes using smaller pieces of Lego. Now, if I change the scenario, but make it festive, I use Van Gogh, a Starry Night, for St. Valentine's Day. Or I use Van Gogh during Christmas or Halloween or maybe Easter. And again, even making it even more steamy, changing the surface. We draw not on a paper, but we draw on eggs. This was, by the way, using the eggs in the lesson as a surface where to draw, dropped by Chris Rowland. So let's continue. What if I make the Starry Night sandwich? Or what if I draw the Starry Night on the cappuccino foam? That's the snapshot that I found on Instagram. Yeah, this drawing of the barista on the cappuccino foam. Amazing. What if we experiment with this in the lesson? Or maybe drawing the Starry Night in our own city. Yeah, drawing it in Kyiv, Odessa, or Lviv, or maybe Poltava or Kharkiv. I've seen this picture in Wrocław. Wrocław is famous for its bridges, so you kind of cannot see lots of brushstrokes, but since Wrocław is famous for its bridges, we have their favorite and famous bridge. What if we use this particular thing? We draw the Starry Night in order to represent our own city and use the famous site of that city, right? For example, imagine the Starry Night in Hogwarts or Starry Night in Kolomea. Yeah, it's also steamy. Or let's imagine that Van Gogh was here in the 21st century. Yeah, you might recognize the famous painting of the Italian artist with the banana and selling it for, if I'm not mistaken, $400 or $200 million. Yeah, like that. So what if Van Gogh had been living with us these days? Yeah, how would he feel? And how would he draw pictures in Ukraine, for example? Yeah, again, experimenting with the surface. Very sad, but it's our reality. I might not use it for my students, but I just wanted to show you. I found these pictures lately on Instagram, so decided to show it. It's still possible if you are working with adults or teens. You might describe it as well, because this is what we see these days. Lots and lots of pieces of art, lots and lots of, oh my God, I forgot the word, masterpieces. Yeah, masterpieces on this things like left in the ground and all around Ukraine. So what you can do with your students, you can have this experiment and like draw your favorite part of the city, of the town, where you feel comfortable. And then draw it, yeah, recreate it in a way of a Starry Night. And then after time finishes, you ask the students to stand up in a circle or sit in a circle and have it as a guessing game. So you just show the picture to the others. Everybody looks and try to guess what the place is. If you're working with students that are relocated and if you're working with them online, they might draw their city now or their favorite city in Ukraine, or maybe their favorite city or their favorite place all around the world. And again, people try to guess what it is. Or maybe they might draw their own dreams wherever they'd like to go in the future. And again, they describe it. And in this case, it becomes more meaningful. Why? Because while communicating to other people, we might feel uncomfortable. We might not remember the word, or we don't know how to call it. We simply take a piece of paper, start drawing, and show it. Like, look, 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 this is this thing. And people look at, it's called a tower. Here we go. Yes. So this is how it works. It's a very useful skill. Now, in this particular lesson, I used this activity, designing something and then describing it. Now, imagine another lesson. Oh, I wish the weather was like this in Kyiv. Unfortunately, it's -12 these days. So basically, if we continue talking about the weather, and if I ask students, oh, sorry, not students, teachers, to come up with an example of a STEAM or CLIL lesson, they always give me these examples. CLIL is geography. Students learn about the weather in different countries. And the STEAM lesson would be students apply the knowledge and they make the weather focused. If I look at it, to be honest, these lessons, both of them are CLIL lessons. Because once we learn about geography, we need to apply the knowledge, make it practical, and students make the weather focus. It is still CLIL lesson, not STEAM 1. How can I make it STEAMy? How can I change the scenario? Let's look at it this way. So first of all, we learn about the weather in different countries. Then we make the weather focused, we create the weather focused, and now we want to travel to a particular destination. So based on the weather focus, not on our predictions, but based on the weather focus, we need to pack the suitcase. Okay? And we experiment with the things that we take with us into the suitcase. This is a very, very light STEAM experiment, very, very basic. It's like 1% STEAM activity because you're experimenting what to take, based on the weather focus. Now, if I want to make it really STEAMy, imagine that we packed the suitcase, we are ready for a 5-day trip to Alaska. So there are no silk dresses, we're not going to Dubai, we're going to Alaska, no silk dresses, jeans, sweaters, hoodies, everything is very, very warm. But now we arrived at the airport and we realized that we are traveling with Ryanair and there is no luggage included. So we need to repack the suitcase into the backpack. And the backpack should be 8 kilos strictly. Ryanair is extremely strict with that. So the students start prioritizing. They don't need 5 jeans. They don't need 5 trousers. They just need 1 pair of jeans. And maybe they will start thinking, what is heavier, a hoodie or a wool sweater? They can measure things. For example, they can pack the rucksack. And if you bring the scales into the classroom and if you bring the real things into the classroom, they might wait and check if it's actually going to make it into 8 kilos and how to take all these things. Oh, believe me, it's a very, very useful thing. I wish people taught me this when I was at school, because these days I travel a lot. I try to save money using low-cost flights, and I always struggle with packing. So this is all about counting and learning about numbers and checking which is heavy, which is lighter. For example, is it a good idea to take jeans? Or maybe it's better to take the sports suit, for example, something like that. So here we go. If we look at the Van Gogh's lesson, it could be implemented into each lesson, each topic. You might have a unit or a module on houses, home, and different furniture. You can implement Van Gogh like that. If you talk about food, 100%, you can have Van Gogh topic as well. If you speak about clothes, yes, we talk about different accessories. By the way, I've got lots of these things. I've got twillies, I've got earrings, I've got scarves, I've got goodie bags. I've got lots and lots of things connected with Van Gogh because it's my favorite. Now, if we speak about parts of body, again, we can implement Van Gogh and even draw on hands using finger colors, for example. Nature, sure, maybe it's not that Van Gogh, but we experimented with the colors of the flowers.
Hello.
So here we go. I'm going to show you the experiment as like we at Express Publishing, they created the book that has got lessons connected with,
my name is Connie.
Connected with STEAM, and this book is all about ready-made lessons. Just have a look.
Hello, my name is Connie Karma and I am the author of The Real STEAM. The Real STEAM is my brand new book that I've created with Express Publishing, and as the title says, it is a book full of STEAM, full of exploration, critical thinking, curiosity, creativity for your students. We have divided the book into 5 different units: science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. And of course, we have also added 2 long-term projects in which you will find real-life situations, topics, and problems that your students will find very interesting. See you in the next one!
So basically, if you're looking for some ideas, for some activities, or lessons that you may use in your classroom, this book can help you because, again, this is not a course book. There is no grammar, there is no vocabulary. It's a lesson based on the topic. So 5 different categories, 5 lessons per, if I'm not mistaken, 5 or 10. Now I completely forgot how many lessons are there, so sorry. So basically you have spare lessons dedicated to the topic. On my favorite, for example, I used the pre-A1 level book. So it looks like this is developed for the primary school, but I used the lesson from that book with my 9 graders and with the adults as well. The lesson was about art, obviously. And we were talking about different materials used for drawing. And we were drawing using ice, real ice. So if you're interested, I'm going to share at the end the link to my Telegram channel. And on my Telegram channel, it's free of charge. I describe that lesson. So you may join and have a look how that particular lesson looks. So basically, it's not about the language. As I mentioned to you, it's all about the activities and how you scaffold that and provide support and guide it to your students. Your students might speak Ukrainian because they're looking for solution, how to repack that suitcase. They might speak, ні, давай візьмемо це, оце. And then you tell them, now you're going to present your project. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, depending on how much time you have. You tell them that that's the language part. You're going to describe the result in English. So get ready, because your students are not ready to improvise. They need to have this preparation time. And finally, they are ready to present their project in English. While they are looking for solution, they work collaboratively in pairs or in groups. The brain doesn't like multitasking in this way because the circumstances they are working in are not, they don't push the students to speak English. I've delivered this topic in different countries where there were people from different nationalities, and the only language that they can use together was English. So in this case, all my students, teachers who are wearing students' hat, were talking English. But once I delivered this workshop in Ukraine offline, and I put teachers into groups, and they're looking for a solution. They try to find the answer to the question. They switch into Ukrainian because they are all Ukrainian. They are emotional, and automatically they speak Ukrainian. Now, let's have a look at one more example. You might not have the book by your hand. So what Connie suggests as an example for the lesson. Let's have a look. Oops. Here we go.
Hi, my name is Connie Karma and I am the author of The Real STEAM. Today we are going to do an experiment together. For this experiment you will need 2 glasses vinegar, red cabbage, baking soda, turmeric, coffee filters, a blender and a teaspoon. Start your lesson by asking your students to work with their peers and try to answer the first questions of the experiment. Ask them to follow the steps, and the first step is to add a teaspoon of baking soda into a glass of water. Mix, and then, with your help, ask your students to put small pieces of the red cabbage into the blender and start mixing until you have this. Then you need to add turmeric in a glass of water, and then the magic starts. Your students will have ready colors to use, and they will create their own drawings and paintings on their coffee filters. And after that step, your students will add vinegar, and look what happens. The color changes. And then baking soda, and look what happens again. The color changes again. So ask your students to observe all the changes and discuss with their peers. And at the end of the lesson, put all the coffee filters on the window and see how the sun changes all the colors. Bye!
So here we go. All the steps are ready for you in the book. You simply follow them. You just give the task to the students. All you need is to prepare for the lesson with the materials. Bring them into the classroom and do it. That's it.
Hi!
So, reflection time. We are almost finishing. So, can every CLIL lesson be steamed up? I'm sure you are together with me answering this question. Yes, sure. Once I add an experiment, it's very important that you don't tell the students, do it like this. You raise curiosity. You make them wonder, what if? Is it possible or not possible? Can we do that or can't we do that? Will it work or won't? Let's have an experiment. And in order not to lose your teacher's face, don't call it a lesson. You may have it like, let's have an experiment, but because experiments can fail and it's fine, no result, it's also a result. And even if you are running late and you don't have enough time till the end of the lesson to finish, don't tell them what to do. Stop them now at this moment. You may always tell that I'd like to stop you here because we're finishing the lesson. There are only 5 minutes left, so let's clean up the classroom. You may continue experimenting at home, and next time when you are here in the classroom, tell me the results. You might do it individually, you might do it in groups or in pairs. It will encourage students to communicate as well. But be ready with the result by the next lesson. We don't tell them the answer because you're going to kill STEAM by doing this. And if I ask you this question, is it the same or different? I'm sure you're 100% with me now that it's different, and the only difference is the experiment. If we just apply, if we recreate or copy and paste, it's CLIL. If we don't apply the knowledge, if we just learn about it, we read the text or watch the video or listen to the audio, it's not a CLIL lesson. It's just a regular English lesson or whatever is there, but it's not CLIL or STEAM. So CLIL and STEAM, they are all about practical applications. Let's sum up. So why such lessons are important? Because they raise students' curiosity. They motivate them to study. They are real life connected. So basically the lessons become memorable and become fun. And that's why they love it. Now, can students be interested in these lessons? 100%, for sure. Are they excited and motivated to study? Yes, 100%. What will they learn by completing this challenge, STEAM challenge? They will learn how they will develop their skills, critical thinking skills, they will find the solution, they will work collaboratively, so on and so forth. Question, will you apply STEAM education in your teaching? Probably, why not? Yeah. Now, important takeaway. So basically, the focus in those two, and most importantly in STEAM lesson, is on the practical application. There always should be a practical application. It is based on inquiry, creativity, and collaboration. It develops critical thinking and flexibility, and your flexibility as a teacher as well, because we need to be able to accept all the answers coming from the students. And it is strongly connected with real life, because this is what we do in the class. It becomes very visual. And finally, the teacher plays a guiding role. We don't tell them what to do this, do that. We're not bossy, but we ask questions. What if? How about? And so on. So that's it from me. Dream big and makes your dream come true. Starting from this moment, you might see lots and lots of Van Gogh around you. Okay, remember to drink coffee during your lessons. It's really, really important to involve your students as much as possible, because this is the machine that gives you money. And if you don't take care of your voice, if you keep on speaking and speaking and speaking and they don't do anything in the classroom, you might have the burnout, you might lose your voice very soon and might quit the profession. Don't do it. Work smart, not hard. And finally, I want to thank you for participating in this webinar, to watching the please subscribe to our channel and leave the comments under it. What did you like most in this webinar? If you're interested or in more collaboration, or you would like to send me the report, what worked or didn't work in your lesson, please use this email, or find more materials on my website. And remember that I promised you the Telegram channel. So here is the QR code. You can scan it and join it for the lesson with the ice drawing on the paper. So that's it for me. Thank you very much for joining, and see you next time. Bye.